Hey everyone, this is my brother Michael.
My brother Adam.
We're the Scharff Brothers.
You're listening to Mentoring for the Modern Musician.
Hey everyone.
Hey everyone. Welcome back.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Welcome back to another riveting episode of Mentoring for the Modern Musician.
That's you guys.
And it is. We're psyched that you're here.
We're very excited today.
Always.
Well, I mean, it's true.
We're always excited.
We're always excited.
Pretty
about
much.
this.
Not just
Sometimes-
excitable, but
Right.
you
I mean,
know,
we're always excitable,
usually.
aren't we?
I think probably. I think people would describe us that way.
I don't know that we're.
No, they wouldn't. People would say we're measured.
Right.
Because they don't know what's going on inside.
That's true.
They're comparing their outsides.
So on the outside,
they're comparing our outsides to their
their
insides.
insides, right? Outside, it looks like we're very measured, which we are,
Totally.
and that's intentional.
Mm-hmm.
But inside,
Yeah, a little excitable.
a little excitable. I don't know that I'm volatile anymore.
Right.
This
is good.
I used to be volatile.
Yes.
Right? We're like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
What's that I'm going to do?
Oh,
What's going to happen?
that could be bad.
I hope this is going to go okay. So, but, you know, part of the way that I got better at that,
Yeah.
boundaries.
Okay. I was wondering where you were going with that. I gotcha.
Pretty good. We're gonna.
Yeah.
That's what we're
'Cause
talking about today.
that's the subject today, folks. That's where we want to talk to about boundaries.
Boundaries. So
And-
before we get into that, though,
Yes.
thank you for listening to the podcast.
Right.
Right? And
Can't thank you enough.
we cannot thank you. I mean, we could probably.
Could we?
We could, but it would get annoying. If the whole thing would be like, oh, thank you. No, thank you. Thanks a lot. It's like,
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
but we're really excited that this is getting out there
Yeah.
and want to encourage everyone to share the podcast.
Like and share, please.
Like and share and comment.
Yeah.
Go to our website. It's in the show notes. Give us suggestions for shows
Yeah.
and any comments or anything.
We love
like that.
hearing from you.
Love hearing from you. But so boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
First thing is, Michael, what do boundaries
So
mean?
what?
What's a boundary?
Yeah, what do we mean by that? Right?
What do we mean by that?
So really, what we're talking about is a delineation of limitation.
Did you Google that?
No, I made that up.
Wow.
I literally made that up. That was that.
All right, I like that.
That's. I know.
The
That's-
delineation of limitation.
It's the delineation of a limitation.
Of a limitation. Like separating, like really clearing up what a limitation is.
Right. So if you think about the boundaries between countries,
Right.
right? That's a geographical line in the sand where
That's right.
this is mine,
me.
that's yours.
Right. Or like stone walls up in New England.
Exactly.
We're in New England. And
Yeah, well, we don't need to talk about walls, right? That's,
right.
We can leave that out.
That's not that kind of wall. That's not what we're talking about. You're all welcome. There's no wall on this podcast.
No,
I'll
exactly.
tell you that right now.
No walls.
It's no walls.
And no boundaries.
And no boundaries.
So what we mean by that when we're talking about your career and your personal life.
Right.
Right? And there are two different things, right? You've got professional boundaries and you've got personal boundaries. Sometimes they are the same
Yeah.
thing and sometimes they're different.
Sometimes they're different, right?
Right.
Well, and then within your own, career life, your work life, and your personal life, there are going to be other sets of boundaries that you've got. You know, if you're living in a house with a band, in the fridge,
We're sorry.
you're gonna. We're sorry. Hang in there. It won't be like this forever. But in the fridge, you're gonna have boundaries,
Right.
dude. That's my hummus. Leave my hummus alone.
Keep your hands off my Ezekiel bread.
You were always eating my baby carrots, man.
I'm glad you like yogurt too.
Yeah.
Can you buy your own?
Can you buy your own? Don't leave a half-eaten. Who left my half-eaten yogurt in the fridge, man? Didn't even lift the spoon in the sink.
Exactly. So that is certainly a kind of boundary.
And this is why I'm actually really glad we're doing this today. Is because I remember a time in my life where I would hear someone say, it's important to have boundaries. That I would just want to throttle them.
Exactly. Well, the key to my happiness
is good
that
boundaries.
I have very good boundaries.
And I hated that.
Yeah.
But because it was
It
a
does
thing,
make my skin crawl a little
right?
bit.
It was a thing that was used, particularly when we were coming up in the new agey world about boundaries and limitations and look. Here's the thing: like many things, I think it is a good thing and a good point to be made.
Right.
And like anything, it can be turned into a thing.
Well, for sure. Yeah, you can always go too far with everything.
I love coffee.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I love fancy coffee.
Yeah.
But I have definitely been around people who were just a little too into coffee.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know?
totally.
And I love coffee.
Right. Yes,
It's hard to describe how much we love coffee.
it really is.
Right? But sometimes I'm like, dude, I get it.
Right, but I'm not like a coffee. I don't think we're like coffee snobs like that either, though.
No, like the bat guano one where
Right. No.
it's a thing. But so boundaries. So what I do with that is I try not to go over the psycho boundary of coffee. Right. but so the boundary thing really annoyed me in my head early on in my life. Ironically, because of the way we were living, because of the way I was living personally and professionally, it became really important for me to be really good with boundaries.
For sure.
And
you're still better at this than I am. This is why you're taking the lead on this conversation. It is absolutely something that you are better at than I am.
Well, and I guess I intentionally did it, but
I think you definitely did.
I think I had a lot of situations where I had to get good at it.
Well, yeah, or go crazy.
So like I've been teaching lessons for like the last 25 years, right?
Exactly.
And one of the boundaries in that is, hey, your time's up.
Right.
Right? And there's somebody waiting outside to come in now.
Sure.
And you got to not be rude about that.
Yeah, you got to figure out a way to do it so that they both feel like they're important.
Right. And so you don't want it to be like a doctor's office where you're running over and you never know when your lesson's going to be, right?
Yes.
So my solution to that was I have a clock in the hallway and a clock in the studio.
Right.
They're linked up.
Yep.
When it's your time for your lesson, come on in.
Right.
And that way everybody gets their time and nobody feels...
I like that a lot now that I'm teaching right next door to you.
Right.
You use the same clock, and I didn't have to. I didn't have to,
exactly.
invest in it or come up with the idea.
Exactly.
Which is nice.
So that's a boundary, like a professional boundary.
Right.
Right. But there are within those boundaries.
Well, and we talked about the personal boundaries earlier, about the living situation, right?
Yeah.
Don't eat my food.
Don't eat my food.
Right. Look, if you use the last of the toilet paper,
right.
Put some new toilet paper in there. Right?
We all dated in high school.
Right.
Right. And there's like, you're going out on a date, and what kind of boundaries are there? Can I hold your hand?
Yeah.
Are we gonna smooch after the way home, or what?
Right.
What those are natural and cool, and everybody deals with boundaries. It's a thing that we all deal with.
For sure.
Some people deal with it well and healthfully.
Right. Well, and whether
some
they're
people not so.
and whether they're legal boundaries or or boundaries of
You mean like
societal.
speed limit or things like that? Beyond
All kinds
that.
of different things
Suck,
that are
man.
and those are all boundaries. They are a delineation of a limitation.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm so glad you put it that way. That really actually does help.
And so you can
clarify.
And when you're talking about that, this idea of limitation,
Yes.
right? I really think that there's two different kinds.
Okay.
There is a natural limitation and there's an artificial limitation.
Right.
Right? So if we're talking about natural limitations, a good one for that would be time.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That time is a limiting factor
Yes.
in everybody's life.
Yes.
And so having good boundaries help you to deal with that automatically set boundary that we all have in our life.
Yeah.
Right? There's roughly 24 hours to every day.
Absolutely.
Right? And there's 7 days a week.
Yes.
And so you have however many hours that is, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what you got. Now, we also know that we have to sleep.
Right.
Another, very natural boundary.
Yeah. You're gonna sleep.
You're going to sleep. Whether you're somebody who only needs 4 hours of sleep or you're somebody who needs 8 hours of sleep.
Yep.
Those hours are going to be delineated to do that.
Yeah, and to not working and not creating and not maybe eating and not
Right. Well,
saying
hopefully
hi to
not.
some friends.
Unless apparently you're on Xanax, in which case you do.
Sleep eating? That's the thing?
That's sleep eating is the thing. It's one of the side effects of Ambien. That's the one.
Oh, man.
Also, gambling and driving your car. So,
So
if you're
this
on
show,
Ambien, please be careful.
this show is apparently not brought to you by Ambien. That's pretty clear, right?
Not yet.
Not yet.
So, time is a natural limitation, right? Can we think of another one? So, the amount of energy that you have
Right.
is a limitation,
Yes.
right? And some days you have more energy than you do other
Yeah.
days.
No, good point.
Some people are higher energy people
Yeah.
than others, just like some people need less sleep than others.
Yeah, and you know what? That is a variable, and it's important to understand that's a variable. You and I are pretty high energy.
Yeah.
Right. And this week particularly
Low energy.
has just been like, oh
Yeah.
man, let's
It's been a
do
tough
this.
one. It's been a grind.
It's been a great, and
this week.
sometimes fine.
Sometimes it is.
That's okay.
And that just means that is a natural limitation.
Yes.
This week, that sets a boundary level where nope, I'm not going to be able to do that extra
Yeah.
hour and a half today
Right now,
that I would ordinarily do.
we can always pony up whatever kind of energy we need for things that are necessary.
Right. There's always the necessities that
Right.
need to get done for your job.
Right.
Right. For your job and your personal life. There are always, got to get these things done.
Yep.
This is one of those weeks where I guess we're not going to get to those extra projects that we wanted to start.
Yep.
Right. But knowing that is, and again, that's another natural limitation.
Yeah. Geography.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to set up a tour where you're going to be out on the road and there are 2 dates back to back
Right.
and they're 1,000 miles away. Okay, but you're going to have to take a plane.
You're going to have to fly.
Right? I mean, you're going to have to.
And if you can't fly, then you need to change one of those dates.
Correct. Maybe push it off another
Because
day
that's
or two.
that's a natural boundary.
Boundary, which is the
That
geography.
has to be respected.
Right. So, and we can deal with boundaries all the time. We talk to people on the phone, or we FaceTime with people,
Right.
or we do all kinds of different. There's ways around boundaries, but understanding boundaries are a thing,
Exactly.
both natural and artificial. All right, so let's get into the artificial ones.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
So artificial boundaries might be monetary boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that you put that in as an artificial. That's a good one because it actually is an artificial boundary.
Right. I mean, it can feel very real.
It can
when you
feel,
look at your bank account and you're like, I need a new guitar.
and there's zero money.
And there's zero money, or there's just enough money for me to pay my rent,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
But really, there are ways to create more monetary flow into your life,
yeah.
working more and being creative about things. And
Paying for a guitar on credit.
there you go.
Right.
Maybe you can get a Sweetwater card.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Again, the show's not brought to you by Sweetwater yet. but we do love Sweetwater. So maybe you get a card and you pay it off. Right. That's a great way to put it. So so monetary is one of those ones that people think of as a real boundary, but that isn't necessarily all the time.
Right. Well, what about something more esoteric, like a projected limitation?
Do you mean like if you're projecting a limitation on yourself about something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So you and whether it's you doing it to yourself or someone else, an external limitation, right? Someone saying,
Oh, you'll never do that.
You'll
kid.
never make it, kid.
Right.
If it's one of those, right? That those are artificial boundaries.
Correct. Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Well put. Yeah.
That you can't achieve, your dream of making enough money doing only music.
Yes.
To support yourself.
Yes.
That's an artificial boundary.
Right.
Right. Of course you can.
Yeah. You can, absolutely. Right. You just have to be creative about it.
Right.
You have to work harder than anybody you know, and then continue and understand it's a long game, and it's not going to happen by tomorrow morning.
Right. Exactly.
Right? Well, so we did talk about that these are important professionally in your career and also personally.
And personally.
Right? I mean, they really do matter.
Well, and what I like about this is that it reminds me that something that you say all the time, that what is true in your professional life is very often true in your personal life.
Right.
So if you are somebody who procrastinates in your personal life,
you're going to be somebody who procrastinates in your career.
Right.
If you've got low self-esteem in your personal life, you're going to have low self-esteem in your career. If you are hard to get along with intellectually or emotionally in your personal life, you're going to get the same challenges in your career.
And the same is going to be true for being able to set boundaries.
Yeah.
When you start setting boundaries.
Yeah.
So now that you know whether they're natural or artificial.
Yep.
And then you can control what those limitations mean to your life.
Totally.
So if there's a time limitation that we've decided is a natural limitation.
Yeah.
Well, one of the solutions to that is you have a clock inside your studio and a clock outside your studio, and you let your students know when it hits the half hour, you come on in.
Yeah.
Don't wait for someone to come on out.
Regardless of what's going on trust me, I know it's rude everywhere else in the world, but right here, this is the way we do it.
So that is a way that you set a boundary that's good for everybody.
Yeah. No, exactly right. And but the other thing that this very often helps with is you're turning something that would otherwise be a challenge into something really that actually makes everybody more comfortable.
Exactly.
Clarity.
Exactly.
A concise, honest clarity about what's going on. This is one of the things that for me, one of the things Boundaries does is I understand what the deal is.
Right.
I can't stand when I'm in a situation where I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah.
But you call it, control freak, whatever you want. But I like to think of it as intentionality and good communication and clarity.
Yeah.
So I understand what I should expect from other people, and other people understand what they should expect from me.
It's a great example. We've all worked for somebody or had a teacher or a parent or somebody in our life that was all over the place.
Right.
That where you were never sure what the answer or the response was going to be. And that's an example of somebody who doesn't have clear-cut boundaries.
Right, or somebody who's wasted.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't have boundaries when they're wasted.
Well, that's true.
Or
right.
that line moves.
Right, that's true.
Right?
And that's one of the things that happen. True. Good
and
point.
so if you think in terms of how do I make the people in my life more comfortable, how do I be more productive, how do I get more done
right.
in terms of my personal relationships
right.
with people, having good boundaries is a great place to start because like you said, there is then that clarity of I know that this is what my response should be now.
Yeah.
I know this is what's expected of me.
Well, and we all know what it feels like to be around somebody who's got good boundaries.
Totally.
You ever been at a business meeting with, somebody in the industry or in any situation where you're supposed to meet with them for an hour?
Right.
And like 55 minutes into it, it's really clear it's wrapping up and they're done.
Right.
And it's real obvious and it's not uncomfortable. It's just like, we're finished up here and all right, thanks so much. This is great.
Right.
It's really refreshing, actually.
Well, and some people are great at doing that naturally. I like that you use that example because some people are really good at doing that naturally, and I can think of somebody that we deal with all the time who's phenomenal at that.
Right.
But some people need artificial ways of doing that, and I don't think that this is any less comfortable. Say for instance, you start a meeting with somebody who says, "So, we had agreed when we made this." Appointment that we were going to have an hour together. Is that still accurate? Do we still have that hour?
Right.
Right? And then you get everybody to agree, right? And then at that 55-minute point, you can then say, so we're about 5 minutes away from that hour. Are we going to need a few minutes over that hour? Or is everybody good here for now? Do we have enough to work on until the next appointment?
And that's a great, I'm going to clarify that's a business meeting. Don't do that when you're meeting a friend for coffee. It would get weird.
Depends on the friend.
That's true.
I really
that's true.
It completely depends on the friend.
I take things very literally sometimes, and I can imagine myself going, okay, so I'm going to meet with coffee, and I'm going to say this to my friends. This is why I tell you guys, I'm way better than I used to be.
Again,
you don't even know.
We are kind of talking about business at the moment,
yes.
But you're right. In a personal situation, you want to have the same thing. And so the way that you can turn that around for that coffee, right, is to start the coffee by saying,
hey,
I got about an hour. Is that cool? Are we still good with that? Right. And then at 55 minutes, you go, oh, man, we only got like 5 minutes left.
I'm going to have to bag. This is blast.
Can we do this again?
Right.
That's
true.
So you change it to a personal.
Yeah.
And so it's great. It's a great example of the other thing that I wanted to really circle back to that we were starting to talk about, but I want to make sure we put a bow on. And that's that the better you get at this in your personal life,
right, the
better you're going to get in your professional life.
Yeah, well, and
vice versa.
And that's where you're right. And I do say that a lot, that what's true for music is true for life, and what's true for life is true for music.
Yeah.
And the better you get at each one, the better the other gets.
Yeah.
So it is because your life is not separate from your music career.
Right.
I mean, you're not probably going to live in the studio where you're recording all the time.
Well, you might.
But you might. but it really is. This is the deal, man. This is what you're doing, and your life is your music. So that the better you get at one, the better and more productive and more valuable and rich the other will be.
Right. No, totally. And one of the other things that this will do for you is it really, the more you do it, the easier it's going to be for you to notice whether you're dealing with a natural boundary,
right,
like time,
right,
or geography,
right,
or whether you're dealing with, an artificial, boundary,
right,
like someone asking you for help constantly,
right,
and you not being able to say no,
right,
someone staying longer at the appointment than they were supposed to, even though you've already said goodbye,
right.
right?
Right.
Those are right. So you're going to be able to notice that you're going to be able to get good at noticing how each of those interact with each other, these natural and artificial
Right.
limitations.
Like natural and artificial are kind of like real versus imagined boundaries.
Right. Exactly.
Like there are real boundaries.
Yes.
And even with geography, like with states.
Yes.
You know, the boundary between Maine and New Hampshire right here is a river. It's not a line, right? That's a good place to have a boundary.
Exactly.
Right there. And in other personal situations, there are some that are that obvious.
Right.
They're like, oh, okay, this is a boundary. Some of the labels, if you're going to go meet with them, there's a security desk. That's a pretty natural boundary. You're not going to get in without an appointment.
You won't. They're just not going to let you.
And I like that. They do that for you. It's a natural boundary.
It is. It's a natural boundary. Not happening today.
Not happening today.
Not happening.
Your name's
today.
not on the
Exactly.
list.
Turn around. Turn around, Spanky.
At a club, you're not on the guest list.
You're not on the guest list.
You can
Sorry.
you go buy a ticket, but that's our boundary.
Exactly.
So-
Right. No, exactly. Well, and along those lines, the other thing that getting good at this is going to do for you is it's going to give you a really, really clear-cut way of being able to say yes or being able to say no.
Right. And when to say yes and when to say no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
No,
when it's
exactly.
appropriate to go, oh no, this is a good thing. And when you just go, a gig comes to mind that we had many, many moons ago.
Well, you're just never going to, this is never ever going to leave your.
Well, and it's because when we come back to this, I go, no, I guess I did. I thought it was just that I was a jerk and I wasn't willing to like.
Right. No, but it was definitely a boundary.
It was definitely a boundary. There's this club owner, the manager had asked us to move our stuff, our PA at one of the speakers outside so people on the street could hear
Right.
and want to come in. And we're like, cool. And then
gave us the key to this hallway that you open up and you wanted the speaker to go in there.
And then this guy comes out and starts yelling at us and telling us we better not break anything. He's going to charge us per speck of dust.
You get one speck of dust, I'm going to charge you $10 for every speck of dust that's in there.
And I was like...
And I looked at Adam's face, and I know...
Oh, I know.
That what he wanted to say was...
I think we're going to speck off.
Exactly.
We're going to speck off and go home. And we didn't. We stayed and did the gig because it was a 2-night gig and,
Right.
we hadn't been paid yet and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And here's the thing. It didn't matter. We could
It
have
wouldn't
never...
have mattered. And that was a learning lesson of an example of a boundary that we now know that we have.
Right.
That if somebody treats us in a way that is disproportionately disrespectful,
We're good. We're out.
we're going to leave.
And it doesn't need to cause a scene.
Nope.
Nope.
We're just going to pack up and go.
Yeah. And that's okay.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Now, I could imagine a situation where I'm in a great space emotionally and I think it's funny and it doesn't bother
Sure.
me. And I'm like, whatever. And I just really like playing the club and I stayed there anyway. And it's just a funny story I tell.
Right.
Right? At the time, I wanted to just scream and yell. And that's...
Exactly.
And so it wasn't... It was something that definitely
Yeah. Yeah.
was an issue.
Well, and again, because of the age that we were at,
Right.
this was a learning experience about what a boundary would be for us
Right.
in terms of
Yeah.
what we are willing to let roll off our back and what we're not.
Yeah. No,
There's
exactly.
going to be plenty of stuff in your life in any profession, but particularly in the entertainment industry,
Yeah.
where you're just going to have to learn how to let stuff roll off your back,
Yeah.
right?
And again, we're not talking about safety or inappropriate
never,
behavior or that kind of stuff. That's,
Right, never. Exactly.
That should be a clear-cut boundary.
Exactly.
Right?
That is a clear-cut boundary.
Personal, physical space boundaries, safety.
Right. Yeah.
That's a clear-cut. Make sure you're good with that,
And it is something that we've talkhed about on other podcasts
Yes.
that we'll continue to talk about.
Yep.
It's one of the reasons that you don't go to a meeting by yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's even if it's somebody that you know.
Right.
You always
Yeah.
want to be safe about
Yeah.
that, and it's sort of a permanent boundary.
Yes, exactly.
Right. No, but what I'm talking about is not getting a timely response or.
Right.
Right, or getting,
Right.
or having somebody bite your head off for something that doesn't seem like it's worth that kind of reaction.
Yeah, yeah.
Or having a booking agent not do their job.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Right. And understanding what boundaries, limitations, right?
Right.
Understanding what's you and what's somebody else.
Exactly.
That's one of the reasons why this is so important.
It's incredibly important. That's
Right?
that's a great point, Adam.
And I think I sort of jokingly think that, or have said that I have learned lots of the life tools that I have because I'm an emotional sissy. Like I just, I'm like, I'm not cool feeling uncomfortable.
Right.
And so I'm just willing to do whatever it takes so I don't feel so uncomfortable.
Right.
And I think that's part of how
Which is probably why you're better at boundaries than I am, because I'm just like, that's okay.
He'll take it.
I'm more of a martyr. I'll do it. It's all right. I'm strong enough.
I
I
have
can
the energy to
handle
be a
it.
martyr. Right.
Yeah.
No, right.
No, seriously. That I think you're probably right. That is probably so for you. People out there, listeners out there who consider yourself super strong, and this may be a little bit harder for you to tackle initially.
Sure.
That sometimes boundaries for me feel mean.
Right. And for me, it started with
Back in the day, it started along.
it started with as
when we bequeathed the bestart.
It started with self-preservation.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Right. Yes, exactly.
And my life, the way it was set up, I really didn't have a lot of time.
No,
I mean,
exactly.
just logistically did
Exactly.
not have a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so I could not mess around. I couldn't.
Right.
So I had to get really good with time boundaries and with personal boundaries, and my emotional sissiness was,
Well, I know that you do it as a negative, as a put down, but for me, I've always thought of it more as you were more interested in feeling well.
Oh,
Right.
that's probably a
that
nicer
you're
way
more
for me to think about
interested in. You are more invested naturally in feeling even keel and calm.
Right, at getting rid of discomfort.
At getting rid of discomfort.
Yes.
And while I value the same thing, I come about it from a different angle.
Right.
I come about it more from, I can take it.
Yeah, right.
Right? And I don't think that either one is right or wrong. I just think that for you, the boundary thing sort of came through a little bit more naturally.
Yeah, that could be.
And it's something where you're looking at your life and you're going, I'm too busy for this. I can't function well and not
right.
do
And
this.
It's really important to me not to lie to people.
Right.
So I was never okay with going, yeah, I'll totally be there.
Right.
And then not showing up. So I would just have to immediately go, yeah, I can't make it.
Right.
So
that's a great example of a boundary. Is you're going to be asked to do appearances, personal appearances, and you're going to be asked to do things for free.
Yep.
You're going to be asked to, can you just come and do a song, or come and do a set?
Yeah.
Right. Come and do a guest.
Yeah.
Right?
And sometimes the answer will be yes, absolutely, I'm there.
For sure.
And sometimes the answer is, I'm sorry, I can't.
And that's okay.
Right.
Just because you said yes to one doesn't mean you need to say yes to all of them.
Right.
Right. And sometimes that's difficult, and sometimes it's not. But the thing that I do know is that the more you do it, the more you are clear about who you are and what you're cool with and you're not cool with.
Right.
What your boundary is, what your limitation is.
Yes.
Right. The easier it is to delineate and to define, just because this is a charity, it doesn't mean that it's something that I'm going to be able to go and do.
Right. Like, should I cancel the gig I've got Friday night?
Right.
That's paying.
Yeah.
So I can go do the charity gig that they really want me to do, and it's a charity I really believe in. Most of the time, my answer is going to be no.
Right.
Because
I need to get paid.
I need to get paid because I've already got
doing
now.
this for a living.
If I were off that night, I don't know. Depends on the charity. Depends on the situation. Maybe I would.
It depends on what meeting I have set up that night. It depends on is one of my really good friends who I hope to collaborate with, have they already put me on the guest list for their show?
Right.
Will I not be able to do both?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
sometimes you're going to want to do both if it's at all possible. But again, we're speaking in these these
hypotheticals and generalities,
right?
About...
So that we can give some small examples of what we're talking about.
But remember that boundaries are a thing. You can say they're not, but they are.
No, you're either good at it or you're not.
Right. And you're either acknowledging that the boundaries need to be clarified,
Right.
or you're denying that the boundaries need to be clarified.
Certainly. Look, it could come down to something as I'm going to do another hypothetical here, as easy as you are recording a project with a friend of yours and they're giving you a cut rate, not because they've decided not to have boundaries around it, but because they love your music.
Right.
And they want you to do it.
Right.
Right? Which is cool.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you owe them
right.
less in terms of accountability.
Right.
So
Right.
if they've
Good
said, that they're going to have a rough mix done for you by Friday,
Right.
it needs to be done by Friday.
Yes. Yes. True. And that goes along with all the other personal relationship things. Remember that everybody has a life going on.
Right.
And everybody's got their own struggles and
Well,
their
like
own...
you say all the time, that everybody's the protagonist of their own story.
Exactly right. So someone gives you a cut rate in the studio and they say the mix is going to be there Friday, and you don't hear back from them. Don't start by going, hey, man, where's my mix?
Right. Right.
But reach out and go, we still good for the mix tonight? Because I told somebody I could blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's totally fair.
It is completely fair. And if you're the person who owns that studio, don't do a cut rate unless you're willing to still do the same amount of work.
Right.
Right? Don't think, well, it's just because it's my friend, I'm going to give him a cut rate, and then I'm just going to do it when I get at it.
Yeah. Or do and be that person.
Well, and be that person.
Have at that.
Sure.
For me, I certainly wouldn't
Yeah, well, that's...
proceed that way.
Again,
but again, look, the boundaries are not going to make you a good person.
No.
Boundaries are not going to make you a successful person.
Well, yeah, but they're going to be a really important part to your success.
I would say you're not going to be successful without good boundaries.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be a good, happy person without good boundaries. But boundaries alone...
Right. No, it's just another piece of the pie.
It's another piece of the pie, another tool
Another tool.
that pushes you in that right direction. And it really is, it's good for you to have good boundaries, but it's also good for the people around you.
Again, it really is. To have clarity about where we stand.
Yeah.
Where do we stand? What's expected? What's the expectations here?
I love working with people with good boundaries.
Yeah.
Even if I don't like what their boundaries are.
Right.
Or if their boundaries bum me out, I'll be like, yeah, but I love that I know what's going on.
Right. I know that, when we're working together, I got to be there 10 minutes early.
Yeah. There we
Right.
go.
Okay.
I'm in. All right.
Right. The more clarity that we have about this, really, the happier you're going to be.
Absolutely.
The more productive you're going to be.
Absolutely.
Right? Because you're going to be more productive when you're happy.
Yeah.
Because it's going to give you more energy.
Absolutely. And
Right.
your work will feel more, you'll feel more invigorated and more, and I don't want to mean positive like Pollyanna.
No.
Skipping through a field of daisies, and there's no problems. You could be, your
Right.
music could be the darkest music in the world. And,
For sure.
And awesome. If it's authentic and great,
Right. And we
Right
want you
on.
to feel, we want you to feel better about it.
we want you to feel good about your art.
Right.
And about what you're doing and what you're creating.
And so, like you said, boundaries and getting good at boundaries is not going to make you successful.
Right.
But without some good boundaries, I think your path to success is going to be a lot harder.
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't guarantee lack of success, but it certainly isn't going to make you any easier to work
It's going to be
with,
tough.
which isn't going to make it better.
Exactly. So, in staying with the theme of this year, intentionality,
Intentionality.
we urge you to to start taking a look at what you can do on a daily basis to have some boundaries for yourself.
Yeah.
And doesn't matter whether you start in your personal life or your professional life, because they're going to leak into each other.
Absolutely. And just do it intentionally and,
Yeah.
and start saying, all right, how do I do with this? Take a look at yourself. Keep some notes.
It's going to make you feel better.
It's totally going to make you feel better.
And that's what we want.
Happy, successful,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Remember, you got this.
We got your back.